Okay, so as I mentioned before, we have three different kind of jobs. We have functional jobs, social jobs, and emotional jobs. And your task during this week is to analyze what type of job are you trying to provide to your end users. A little bit about what each of those jobs are. Functional job entails getting a task done. Like somebody needs to get the QuickBooks done, then they just hire a bookkeeper to do that task. They need a task to get done. That's a functional job. Emotional jobs describe how customers want to feel. It's like I'm getting this bottle of water, and what I want to feel is when I'm drinking my water, the water is still very cold. Or if I have ice, then the water will last cold for at least 12 hours. And a social job describes how a customer wants to be perceived by others. So give me an example of a social job. Who is the master of selling these products that customers feel like Steve Jobs with Apple, with the Apple Watch, with the Apple phone, with the Apple computers, customers want to be perceived like I'm a Apple guy, or that's kind of an example of a social job. It's how the customers want to be perceived. Most of the brands, the very expensive brands, kind of follow these social jobs because those customers want to be perceived like they have money or they can afford that. So now we're getting into the value position canvas. And this is the canvas that I'm going to upload today. So you are going to be working on this. Remember, the value proposition canvas only focus on what is it you are providing to your customers, that your value proposition and your customer profile. And our goal with this canvas is to find the product market fit. The value position canvas tells the story of how you create value for your customer. It's all about them. So we are going to learn a little bit about your customer profile. We're going to teach you how to do the value map and then how to get to the product market fit. Case study that we're going to learn today is Hilti. Hilti is is a company that manufactures and sells light machine tools for builders. So this is how their business model canvas look before they decide to change the way they reach out to their customers. Actually, it was like a very kind of centric customer company. They have the high-end machines, their customer segments with builders. They have Salesforce people working to get the customers. They have a direct one-to-one relationships. It was all about transaction, just selling the tools, pretty simple. They have the resources, they have the factories, the brand name, and the key activities, of course, manufacturing facility, and then the selling. Partners were just the manufacturing facility owners, and the cost structure, of course, the operational cost and the brand. Very simple way to conduct business. However, they have a substantial problem. They needed to regain competitiveness because there was a lot of people, kind of companies doing the same. So when you found yourself working with your company in your company and you get to that path stage and then your competitors are getting ahead of you, you need to start thinking what to change or what to improve or what to innovate to be able to continue growing. So what they did is they followed this methodology and they went and understood more their customers. So what they found is that the customer's biggest job to get done is not to buy the tools. And remember, one of the things you're going to be doing when you are interviewing your customer is to understand what is what is it the job they're trying to hire. Remember last class we learned about what is the job of your product or service based on the customer perspective is what is it they're going to be asking you to provide. And then what they found when they did here this Hilti management, when they did the customer discovery, they found that the customer the customer mind, they want to manage, maintain, and replace the tools, right tool, right place at the right time. And this is how their customer profile look like, the customer jobs. So this is something that you are gonna be doing with the new canvas. So here is what you're gonna be putting like out, where the jobs the customers are trying to get done, where the customers trying to get done in their work and in their lives here. So in this contest, you are going to develop something we call the customer architecture or the customer persona. And then you're gonna learn more about who they are, what they are, what time they open, are they located in your town, or where they working? Are they government? Are they corporate? Are they just private individuals? And then you need to know what is it they're trying to accomplish when it comes to the products you are developing. Now, in the context of this case study, what they found is actually their end user, the person who made the decision was not the builder, it was the boss of that building. And then when they were able to analyze their customers, they found that one of the problems they have is they have to deal with a bunch of stuff. They have to be busy like finding executive contracts. They were kind of worried about deadlines, and they have to be working on the schedules. And then the other part of this canvas in the customer profile is what is the pain. So they describe bad outcomes, risks, and obstacles related to customer jobs. Like if in this case, if they couldn't find a solution for that problem, then what was the risk of that boss? So if the boss were not able to get the task done, they're gonna be they're gonna be having problems with broken tools, with delays, with stress, with penalty costs, etc. And then the customer, again, if he's able to find a solution, then in this part, you're going to describe the more or less expected benefits the customers are seeking. So what is it they're trying to find when they find a solution, right? So when you understand what's your customer problem, what's the problem, then you have the solution. And then if you're able to tell them this is the solution, then they of course your end users are gonna be happy that they found what they were looking. Okay, so this is how the value map will look. So in that case study, I don't know what to put in. So if they're able to find the solution, of course, they're gonna have profitable contracts, profitable costs, access to newest tools, and 100% uptime. So here's a video.
Have you ever wanted to just focus
Show that. Hold on. Put this up here.
on your work and forget about administrative issues and managing your tool fleet? If so, Tool Fleet Management, Hilti's long-term tool usage service, is for you. We take care of your tools while you focus on the job. Hilti helps assure that your team will have the best tools, each unique and labeled using RFID and an inventory number, so you can maintain control of your tool fleet. If something breaks down, no problem. Hilti has another way to make your work easier. We repair or replace your tools quickly at no additional cost. Hilti will also update your tools on a regular basis, always with the latest generation models. All this on a single monthly invoice. This will seem incredible to you, but the benefits don't end there. The more you choose Hilti, the more Hilti services benefit you, like Tools on Demand, Hilti's new service reserved for customers with at least 10 tools. Now you can put high-performing Hilti tools to work when and where you need them. We call it Tools on Demand. You'll call it Smarter Business. Tools on Demand is ideal for handling planned peak periods on the job site, since it meets your demanding tool needs all the time. Tool Fleet Management and Tools on Demand from Hilti. Two services with a single objective: to maximize your productivity, to help you save time, resulting in lower management costs. Now your tool crib can evolve with your business.
So when you're working on your value proposition of your products and services, you need to develop a list of all the products and services a value proposition is built around. So everything that you are doing to solve your end user's problems, that's what you want to be putting right here. And that's what they did here with this case study. And then when they analyze all of that, they decide to come out with the idea they will become an online fleet management system. So instead of being just a product-centric company, they decide to become an online fleet management system. Like remember when we talk about the subscription model and how to make money while you sleep? So this is kind of something they did based on the customer discovery. So that's what is very important for you to interview your customers, to get to know what is the problem, what is the solution, and how can you kind of fit in what is it they're looking for. This part of this canvas we call the pain relievers. In here, you're gonna be putting is describe how your products and services kill or alleviate customer pains. So I'm gonna kind of show you these two, how they work together. Is how you're gonna solve the problems. You're gonna put a list here. In this case, remember, well, we were talking about the boss. The pain of the boss was this upfront investment, teeth, broken tools, delays. That was the problem this boss faced with the previous business model when this company was a product-centric company. So this was the whole issue. That's what they didn't want to commit in buying use the tools. So that's how this Hilti company decide, okay, if your problem is um, um, broken tools or for an investment, let's just use these no costs for repair or replacement. And then it would be subscription. So you would have the most advanced tool so you can perform a better project. And now this game creators is in this part over here, it's going to be the game creators is the describe how your products and services create customer gains. So you're going to list here how your service or product will create the gains for your customer. Like in this case, here is the boss, and this is how they decide to describe how are they going to create those gains. So the gains, if he has what he's looking for, he was looking for safely, predictable cost, 100% uptime, access to newest tools, profitable contracts. So then this company decide to say, okay, you're gonna have access to modern fleet. You are gonna have an immediate tool replacement when you need it. And guess what? You are not gonna be, it's gonna be a sunk cost management. See, that's a predictable cost. That's how they come out with this small subscription-based company. So all the things, all the pains and the gains and all all the things they learned from this boss, they were able to put it in a business model that made the company different company. So then they found a fit. So, two questions you need to ask when you are working on this product market fit is, are you addressing essential customer gains or are you addressing extreme customer pains?
I had a question with the
Mhm.
back to the jobs, the functional, emotional, or social. With
Mhm.
your product, is it usually only one, or do you cover all three categories, or sometimes it's two? How does that work?
It depends. There are products that actually cover the three categories, but there are on other products that only describe one. Like for instance, if I am an attorney and I'm gonna hire you to provide for me more evidence, that's a functional job. You're getting the tax done. Okay, you need evidence here, boom. Now, if this attorney wants to be perceived like he's the more advanced attorney and he wants to be perceived like he has the best tool, then that's an emotional job.
Yeah,
He's
that's what I
gonna,
was thinking. Yeah.
yeah. And that's something that you will use to do a marketing campaign. Like if you can say to them like you will look the most experienced, the most technological advanced in your industry because I'm going to provide tools that are going to show you are the best in town because of all the way you're showing evidence. See, so see how your product is a functional job, it's a social, and it's an emotional because he wants to be perceived like the best. He needs the evidence. And once you have your brand more like known, and then you become famous, like, oh my God, this is the best person to work with attorneys. And then if you become like expensive brand to hire, then he wants to be perceived like a social. I can afford her service because I'm the best. See, now your product or service is kind of industry segments. It depends, but it's only like a product. If I'm just selling a bottle of water at the beginning, it's a functional job. It's just that I'm getting the tax to get done. She or he needs a bottle of water to put water. Boom. But if it's this fancy bottle that keeps the water cold and that now things evolve. Okay.
Can I add
Great
to that,
question.
Connie?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and another way to look at that question is think as to what is the deeper need of your intended customer, right? So a product or a service can have multiple jobs to be done for the customer, right? But in the case of that we saw of the milkshake, right, on the surface, it serves as a breakfast, it serves as a kind of nourishment drink in the morning. But when you really look at what job it was really fulfilling at a deeper level for the customers was, it was a lot more multi-sided than that. So there was something that we would never have thought of, which was to kind of keep you occupied enough for a 20-minute commute, right? So I would encourage you all to look at deeper than a surface level for clues as to, how you can prioritize those jobs to be done for the customer, because then that will also inform how you prioritize on your marketing messaging and your packaging and all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you only find these answers when you do this customer discovery. When you talk to your customers, not only now, but later. Because remember, this methodology is good for startups, but it's even better for existing companies when they want to change the business model and do something different. Like in the case of this company, Hilti, they were a product-centric company, but then they became a customer-centric company. And that's kind of what you only know this by getting to know your customer and by getting to know what is it they're trying to get or they're trying to fix or what is it they want from you. And there are three kinds of fit actually. The problem solution fit is when you give the solution to that customer. The product market fit is when your product kind of fit in the market. And then the business model fit is when the whole business model of the company fit with your end users. So in the first one, the problem solution fit is when you understand your customers. In the second one, product market fit is when you design value proposition for your customers. And in the third one, in business model fit is when you find the right business model, the whole company helping your customers. And remember, when you are working with your business model with the value proposition canvas, you have this series of hyperatives. You talk to your customers, describe how to create the value for your business, then you go to the value proposition canvas, describe how to create value for your customers. Here is what you learned, and then you go back to the business model canvas and continue evolving. And remember, once you know what your customers want, then you come back to your company or your team and then you analyze what is it you want to do, what is it you don't want to do, and then you iterate, and if you are not able to continue with that idea or with what the business model you thought, you pivot. And this is what they did. Remember the first business model, it was just the machines for the builders. Then they interview their customers. Then they change. Instead of the builders, they decide to go to the construction company CEO. They found that the large long-term contracts were what they want because they just don't want to deal with all these daily problems when just buying tools. Then they add to the manufacturing and the brand a service, which is the subscription-based company. And then they have to have, of course, more inventory. And they have in the key activities, they have to create a service fleet because now they're going to be kind of providing tools to these construction companies. And they became an online fleet management system on top of what they were doing before. So, and after they did the change, they became a service-centric company. With a new customer. It was not the builder, it was now the boss. Distribution channel, of course, now they have the portal. Yeah, the issue they found is this, they have to have more inventory, so they have to fix that. Okay, so that ends. Okay, good. So that was Hilti case study. Any questions? Before I continue with the Steve Blank and the Udacity videos? Okay, no questions. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to Udacity. Share the screen. 1 second. Okay. And remember, your homework is to watch these videos. It's going to help you a lot. So it's going to help you to develop your value proposition canvas. The whole idea of this is just to get to the customer archetype.
And the goal of all this is to actually define the customer persona or archetype, which is just a fancy way for saying, I want you to know everything about those customers. So what could be everything? So at the end of the day, not only do you know about the pains and gains of these customers, but you specifically know who they are. If they're in a company, their position and title, their age, their sex, their role, and consumers could be parent, it could be child. For a consumer, it could be housemate, etc. How do they buy? Where do they buy? How much money do they have discretionary to spend? And again, it's true in companies and it's true for consumers. In companies, do you know how much each individual department can sign up for? That is, if you've priced your product $1 too high, sometimes it requires the next level of management to sign off. Same at home. If you're trying to sell to kids, do you know what their allowances are and how much, where they get their money and how often they get it? And if you're selling to consumers who are parents, what's their weekly spend on discretionary items? You need to understand what matters to them, what motivates them, who influences them. And this one isn't trivial. The influences them, you're going to go back to this when you do customer relationships later. And it'd be great if you actually knew how to reach these people and what buttons to push when you do. And so if you start asking these questions when you're starting to talk to them, trying to define them, It makes spending for marketing and demand creation, that is for customer acquisition and activation, incredibly easy because you already asked them up front, how would I get you to buy this? So marketing doesn't become some mysterious process later on. Customers already told you, oh, this is how I buy, and this is how much I spend, and here's who I listen to when I want to make a purchase. As I said earlier, to me the goal is actually for you to know enough to confidently go up to a whiteboard and draw the day in the life of a customer. So in understanding our customer segments, it was really helpful to put pictures up and actually build an archetype of who our three potential customer segments are. The first one we called Gasol, the next one we called Junior, and then the third we called Becky. And we talked about their age, their income, their demographics, whether they were a buyer or whether they were wearing the jersey as a social statement or whether they were actually a social sports viewer. What kind of fan type were they? Avid, in season, casual? What kind of class were they? Were they upper class and could they afford anything? Or were they middle class or could they barely, they don't even have a credit card? What was their Facebook status? And more importantly, what kind of rental type would they like? And it turned out that was really helpful to kind of understand our pricing model and our revenue streams. So archetypes really helped us understand our customers, the value prop, the revenue, and some of our pricing tactics. There's some other things to consider in customer segments besides jobs to be done and pain and gain, and that is who's the customer? Well, gee, I thought we just defined the customer. It's the archetype, it's the persona. But sometimes who's the customer in context is really what we need to know. In corporations, it's pretty easy to understand that you might have someone who uses the product, but they might not be the person who pays for the product. So there might be someone up here, the payer, let's give them a fancy name and call them the economic buyer. So we might be buying software for accounting to use, but it might be the chief financial officer who has to sign off for that. And in between this process, in a large company, you might have people who influence the decisions. You might have people who actually recommend who the vendors should be. You might have a decision maker who's the head of the department, but still needs to pass off the final purchase to the chief financial officer. And surprisingly, if you spend enough time selling to companies, you might have saboteurs. And saboteurs in a company are individuals or organizations whose jobs feel threatened if a new piece of software or new process or new organization comes in place. And so in complicated business-to-business sales, you really need to know the archetypes for each one of these, even though you might think, oh, all I need to know is about my user. And then you might go, okay, well then all we need to know is about the buyer. As we'll see later, you actually need to understand archetypes for all. Now, if you were kind of rolling your eyes going, well, I don't sell to businesses, I just sell to consumers, this isn't relevant to me, I want you to think of the case of selling entertainment software to teens. Well, think about it. You kind of say, well, the user, well, that's pretty simple. That's the teen. How hard can that be? Well, if they don't have a job, the economic buyer are their parents. And the influencers and recommenders may be their friends. And the decision maker, depending on your family, might be mom or dad or the kid or somebody else in between. And so when we think about business to consumer sales, you also need to start thinking about, is the user different than the payer? The last example is a personal one. I was buying a car, and I thought, how simple could that be? I was the customer. Little did I know, having two teenage daughters, that really wasn't the case. Because when I started talking about my car or potential car, my daughter said, Dad, you can't buy that type of car. We wouldn't be caught dead in it. And I looked at them and said, well, the car's not for you. They said, oh, we just won't even be riding in it. And they said, well, listen, if you buy that car, you can't get that color. And this conversation went on for a long time until finally we were able to make a decision. And I realized that the final decision maker in our household was my wife. So for this quiz, let's consider an example where you were selling business intelligence software into an enterprise customer, a large business, why don't you match the titles below with the roles of the customers?
Oh, that's a quiz. So who wants to take the chance to do the quiz? Okay, consider selling business intelligence software into large business. Which type of customers are they following? CFO, CIO, report users, line of business management, business intelligence group. Okay, who's the economic buyer in this case?
Seems like it'd be the CFO.
Yeah,
yeah.
CFO.
Here, let's put the number 1 here. Okay, who is the influencer?
The business intelligence? No.
Let's try. Unless somebody else says something different.
I think the number 5 will be the saboteur.
Oh, okay.
Because you may be taking their job.
Okay, so who will be the influencer?
I think number 5 is definitely the. I said number 5 was supposed to be the user because it's a business intelligence software, but there's no user there. So.
Okay. So who will be the influencer? I'm gonna. Okay,
Influencer.
number 5 or number 3 or number 4?
Report users. I think it would be the report users, isn't it?
Okay, who?
Since there is a CIO there, the CIO probably is the decision maker.
Okay,
There you go.
CIO.
Eliminate the option.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's start with this. First, the CFO is the economic buyer. Okay, number 2, CIO.
CIO is probably the decision maker.
Okay, decision maker.
It has to be brought to him.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Now, how about the report users?
I would believe they would be like the influencers because if they're using
Yeah.
The recommender or the influencer.
Yeah,
Okay, number 3 here.
I would say yeah.
Okay. This is actually very good for developers because it's considered selling business intelligence software into large business. Which
Yeah, so the
types
report,
of customers are the following? Okay.
the report users are the ones, I mean, the way I see it is they're the ones reviewing the information, the business intelligence information. So I think there would be an influencer saying, hey, we want faster and intelligent information. So, I mean,
Okay,
that's my
so-
point of view.
Okay, so the report user is the influencer?
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I might be wrong. There is a good
Okay, we'll
possibility,
see.
but
We'll see. Okay.
I think number 4 could be the saboteur, and number 5 probably the recommender.
Okay, let's do that. Number 5, the recommender here.
I say it's the other way around, but it's fine. Let's go, Marco. Let's see.
Okay, everybody. Do you
Let's
like
do
this?
that.
You could see the business management folks being the saboteur because you're messing in their turf.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, but yeah.
Okay, so should I switch here the 5 here the 4?
Nah.
No,
Okay,
I think
guys,
that's
so-
right.
Leave it the way it is. And
Yeah,
switch
I
the
wasn't
answer.
suggesting changes. I was affirming.
Okay, so leave it here. Or Marcus.
You're gonna try see what happens. I don't know.
Okay, so this is kind of cool about the Udacity course because every lesson has its own quiz, and then you will know if your answers are right or wrong. So I just love this class. It's very engaging. Submit the answer. Let's see how it went. Try again.
You gotta
Okay, we're gonna
change.
try again. Okay, guys. Oh, these are the two that are wrong.
Yeah,
Who's the recommender and
go,
who's the decision maker?
go. I think the recommender. No, those red dots were there before already.
Oh, they were
Before
before?
you submit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's switch the recommender and the saboteur and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 4 and the other one's 5. Yeah,
here. Like that?
I think so.
Okay,
So
let's,
Right.
Well, yeah.
who wants
I would
to?
think the business management's the economic buyer, because they probably actually handle the finances. So they're actually purchasing it.
This number 4 reading
Yeah, number 4 for economic buyer.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody agree? Say yes.
No.
What would be the function of the CFO then if it's
Okay,
not
let's
if
send
it's not the
Aaron.
financial decision?
okay, let's send this the way it is right now and see what happened. Okay, and then if no, we will change to Erin as suggestion. Okay. Oh.
Hey, Ron. We're there, Ron.
Pick up the
We got it
phone.
now.
We got it, Ron.
No, it was fine. It was right. Okay, this is kind of cool. I love it. So, any
Sorry,
questions?
I'm a bit competitive. My bad.
I like it. I like it.
So I think what that exercise highlighted for me is how important it is when you're doing your customer discovery to understand what the chain of command and the decision-making process is, and how sometimes it may appear that a certain person or role is making the decision, and it turns out that that's not really the case. And sometimes it's not obvious what is really the hierarchy behind the scenes. So, you got to ask some pointed questions in your customer discovery around the budget and purchasing cycle. That's what this highlighted for me.
And you're right, Esther, actually, and this is kind of what we talked at the beginning of this video with the steep lags. Maybe the customer that you are trying to reach, maybe he or she is not the decision maker. Maybe the person who you're talking in that company is the sabotager. So you need to be very careful, because if you're talking to a sabotager, that person is not going to let you in to talk with the decision maker. So that's what is very important to do customer discovery, because sabotagers can kill literally your business idea. So 2 classes ago, remember Marcus and Italo, remember we were talking about who are your end users, and you thought maybe the managers, but then we said no, because they're gonna take the information with them and say who can make the decision to buy your software and leave the software in the communities, and that ended to be the president of the boards. See, it's pretty simple. Now you will find that now is a hypothesis. What we have said in the case of Marcus and Italo is that maybe the presidents of the associations are the ones who made the decision to purchase their software. That's a hypothesis. And now with that hypothesis, Marcus and Italo, they're gonna go to talk with these guys and validate the hypothesis. So once they say, yeah, we are the ones who made the decision, we have the power to purchase the software, and we have the power to write you a check. And when you find that in this customer discovery, then you put in front of the hypothesis, validate it, and then bring it to your business model and continue working with that person as the end user of the decision maker. And then you continue working on the marketing strategy to reach out to them. So you don't have to waste more time trying to figure it out who's his customer. So now at this point of the bootcamp, we are trying to discover your end user persona to be able to create a marketing strategy to talk to them and to sell to them to the masses if you have kind of a large population of those end users that will buy your products. Okay.
Yeah, in our case, I see saboteurs in two places. One is the management company that could feel threatened by our solution, and the other would be a supplier that could have a good relationship with the board, and when listening to our idea, maybe feel threatened as well by any solution inside it. Other than that, I see influencers in board. They have people that could influence and recommend, and obviously decision making is inside the board most of the time. But also the board could hand the decision making to the property manager, which if they feel like they're threatened, then they automatically going to, be the saboteurs of what we have to offer.
Yeah, and in your case, actually the homeowners will be maybe the recommenders or the influencers. Like at the end, the happy customer is going to be the homeowner, right? Because we're going to have the information right in front of us, either with the app or with the portal, right? Because we're going to be able to know exactly what's going on in the community. And of course, recommenders are other presidents of other associations who talk to each other and say, I hired this company, they're doing this for us. And now we don't have to rely on the management companies. Yeah, you can have like, good point, Marcos. Yes.
And Marcos, to go into a little bit more detail into how you described, the different roles in your ecosystem, it may be that even within your board, within a board, you may have any of these, right, within a given board. So you could have a saboteur or saboteurs in the board, right? Individuals. So it may be, depending on the industry and the dynamic in your specific marketplace, that you may need to go to yet another level in identifying these roles within, say, a board or any other governing structure that you're dealing with.
You can have a saboteur in the board when, for instance, somebody understands that some things are going to change that they don't want to change. So they can basically just say no to your solution because it's going to fix a problem that they take advantage of. And this could happen. I mean, it was happening here in my community. We had somebody that was trying to be the board so they could approve Airbnb in our community for their own benefit. So the guy had like 15 houses inside of our community, and he was trying to do that, and he was not elected.
Yeah, it's difficult to deal with them. Okay, good.
It's
so
funny. Can I share something real quick?
Yes.
Okay, I do business development for a software company, also on the side, and we sell solutions with artificial intelligence and automated process control for financial institutions. And I had one instance where I was talking to this person in the bank who dealt with onboarding clients onboarding, and I presented the tool and everything, and the first reaction of that person was, I'm gonna lose my job,
Mhm.
you know? And I mean, we got like shut down. I couldn't even talk to anyone in there. It took me I would say a year to go around and get to the actual to the vice president of the bank. I was able to, through some crazy interventions, divine interventions, I would say, my life
Mhm.
took a turnaround, and I got to the vice president, and today we are, implementing that on the bank. But from that, I learned that my presentation changed, like it took a 180-degree turn once I learned that, because I had to include in my presentations now saying that, our solution would give the possibility of existing people within that role to actually escalate and be problem solvers for the client directly, and give them more time to be connecting with the clients and upselling products. But that's
Mhm.
that's what I learned from kind of these deal, this type of deal.
Yes. Okay, so last I'm gonna show you. Okay, so please, as I mentioned before, do the Udacity classes. But I'm gonna show you this, which kind of is a question that I always encounter when I teach the classes. What happens if I have multiple customer segments? So let's see what Steve Lang has to say about it.
So just to summarize, for Google search, each had its own value proposition, but most importantly, each had its own revenue stream, and one segment cannot exist without the other. That is, if you had users but you had no revenue, you'd be out of business over time. But if you had a revenue model but no users, there would be no reason for those advertisers to show up. Now, this was an example of a two-sided market. Let's see what happens when we have multiple sites. So Google search was a very simple multi-sided market, just two sides. There were users and there were payers. But can the canvas actually work with something more complicated like in life sciences? So here's an example of a business model canvas from a life sciences company that was going to provide E. coli cell lines for simplified downstream processing. And they said, oh, our customer segment is segmented in niche marketing. Now, in hindsight, after the end of the class, they were the ones who actually went in and said, well, yeah, that was kind of a definition of what a customer segment was, but they didn't really describe who. And their value proposition, as even they realized later, was pretty unclear. And their channels, when they said web sales and trade shows and direct sales, in hindsight, looked pretty unrealistic. And for partners, they just said, well, when we look at it now, it really kind of looks like a random list of hopefuls. So let's see how they got from something that started over here, which you shouldn't laugh because your first canvas might look like this, and what happened after they got out of the building. And so now you could see, instead of segmented and niche market only, they started to understand, oh, maybe the market is somebody in something specific, biopharma, biotechnology, or food. Still kind of vague, but they're getting a little better. And then they're still a little vague on their feature set and gains and pains and value proposition. They're getting a little more refined about partners. And then as they went down, they kind of understood, oh, we understand what a value proposition is. It's not like what our technology is. It's what gain and pain we're providing. So simplify protein purification, increase yield, increase throughput, decrease cost. Now we're making a lot more sense. And now if you look at customer segments, oh, now they're actually getting down to very specific groups. Not yet the people in them, but they're now actually going, oh, these are the people we should be talking to. And our partners are now also getting specific, and they're getting some very interesting traction on what potential revenue streams were. And if we look at their next rev, the things in red are the changes. So now they're looking at industrial enzyme manufacturers, and their key activities are R&D and production support is their next change. And then finally, they now kind of verified, yep, these look like our customer segments. Here's our customer relationships. more than likely will make money from royalties and commercial licensing, etc. And so you can see multiple customer segments, multiple value props, multiple revenue streams. This is a somewhat complex, multi-sided market. Just by the way, as a note, some of the most complex are actually in the medical device business, where you have users and payers and hospitals and insurance companies and regulators, etc. And each one needs a value proposition. Each one you need to understand the revenue model. And so some business model canvases can be quite complex. Now, what's interesting, by the way, about this life sciences company is here's something that you would think, who could I call? I'm just a scientist. I mean, you might be an entrepreneur building an iOS app, and at least you could ask your friends. Who do you ask about, E. coli-based purification platforms? Well, basically, they decided to go through their Rolodex of all the trade shows and all the conferences and all the people they've met in their careers. And instead of physically driving out to them, they used Skype and they used phone calls. And they started a cold calling strategy, which set a stage for a conversation. And they had 2 or 3 of their team on the call. So they would send a message to contact. They'd set an appointment. They'd send out a short summary electronically. They'd have a conversation and follow-up. And they also use survey tools. They used LinkedIn and SurveyMonkey. But when we were counting how many contacts they made, we didn't actually count them in their progress.
Okay.
So one last thing, and we've been avoiding bringing this up until now, but it's something you as an entrepreneur should know. It's a secret. And it's a secret that we didn't even understand for a long time. And that secret is there are 4 types of startups. And not knowing which type you are can really sink your company. So we call this market type. It turns out that there really are 4 types of markets for startups. One is an existing market. Another is where you take a segment or re-segment an existing market. Another is a new market, and another is a clone market. So let's take a look why this is important, and then we'll give you the definition of each one. It turns out that the type of market changes everything. It changes your initial market size, how much it costs to enter the market, what kind of launch you do of your product. It affects the type of competitive barriers you have and how you position or describe your product. It affects your sales model. Are you going to hire direct sales? When do you hire them? What kind of margins you should have or the profit? How long it takes, that is the sales cycle, and something called the chasm width, which we'll take a look in a second. It also affects how much money you're going to need to raise and how long it takes to get to profitability. And then finally, it affects the types of customers and what their needs are and how long it takes to adopt. So one of the things this looks like is just a checklist of market type seems to affect everything. What the heck can it be? So let's go a little further and define it.
Okay, I will just leave it there, and then your job is just to continue watching the videos with the stick blank. And once you watch the lesson 5 and lesson 6 and everything related to customer discovery, then use your value position canvas and develop your second canvas. And then next class, we're going to speak about how to come out with the hypotheses and how to come out with the questions for your interviewing process. Okay. Okay, questions before we finish?
No.
No questions? Okay. So we finish early today. Yeah, after a long weekend, everybody's like, okay, good. So if you have any questions when you finish to watch the videos, please reach out to me by LinkedIn or by email. And if you have questions related to your value proposition canvas, remember, reach out to us. We're here to help you. And okay, so have a great rest of the day, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
one.
Have a good
See you.
day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everybody, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.